dancing the other night.
Friday night?
Poetry or something?
So do we start, or do we, you want to check for me to make sure we're clear?
I need to find readiness in my first step, John.
Where are the staff members? Are they out there?
Dean looks pretty official up there.
He's wearing a suit coat. You wearing a suit coat?
He's been down trying to
Freaking me
control
out.
Paul's going
kids.
to
You've been down controlling the kids.
Are we calling you? Yes, we are. Law and order. Huh?
Up here?
It is. Up here, down there. All these
There's
yellows
I
here.
bet they're ready thousands here.
You should have seen these second graders today. I went on the computer as a second grader from Grandview. They saw the baby calf being. And you think those second graders, they go crazy.
Cat coat.
Ready?
That's way up there.
Are we ready? I will call this evening's town board meeting to order for April 23rd, 2018. The time being 7:04 p.m. First order of business is roll call. Ms. Mellenbacher.
Mayor Christy Melendez,
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Miles Baker,
Here.
Cindy Showerman,
Here.
Ken Bennett,
Here,
Paul Rinnemeyer,
Here?
Ivan Adams.
Here,
Ms. Showerman and Mr. Adams, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
you start, Cindy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And this evening, our item 3, we are going to now commence with our 2018 Arbor Day poster and poetry award presentations. Ladies.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for coming. My name is Allison O'Connor, and I'm the chair of the Windsor Tree Board. And we are thrilled to be here tonight at the town board meeting to honor our poster and poetry contest recipients. And so we have the students from the Windsor Middle School and also all of the elementary schools in attendance to meet the mayor and be congratulated for the artwork or the poem that they submitted. It's one of the best things that I think we do here in the town to get kids involved in not only Arbor Day and understanding the importance of trees, but also to practice their great art and lingual skills as well. So I would like to thank the Tree Board for all of their support. My cohort, Wendy Ball, the vice chair of the board, will be announcing their names. And parents, if you want to get a photo op, the mayor will pause with your child and you can come to the center. And then parents, you are welcome to then go downstairs and we have some refreshments. So thank you for having us, and we appreciate the town's support, and we really do appreciate having you keep Windsor tree-rific. I know, it's punny. All right, so we're going to start with the Windsor Middle School Poetry Contest winners.
Alrighty, not everyone's here, but I'll go ahead and read names as we go on. Honorable mention, Ryan Becker. Honorable mention, Josiah Huffman. Honorable mention, Stephanie Sullivan. Honorable mention, McKenna Couch. And honorable mention, Dominic Cravens. Honorable mention, Anthony Perea. Honorable mention, Shelby Newton. Honorable mention, Sawyer Frisch. Honorable mention Jordan Lindner. Third place for poetry, Katie Perkins. Second place, Emma Johnson. And our winner from the middle school, first place in the poetry contest, Liberty Horst. Alrighty, thank you, middle schoolers. We want to thank the teachers as well, because the teachers really put in a lot of work and encouragement in both the posters and the poetry contest. So we want to acknowledge all the teachers as well. So elementary school poster contest winners from Grandview. From the 4th grade, we have honorable mention Nixon Smith. And we had a great celebration at Grandview on Friday, so it was really fun. Honorable mention from the 5th grade, Dylan Henson. Third place from the 4th grade, Chloe Overholt. Second place from the 5th grade, Kylie Lichtenberg, who isn't able to be here. And our first place winner from Grandview from the 2nd grade, Annie Fowler. Alrighty, moving on to Mountain View Elementary, 5th grader, honorable mention Ryder Hockett. And while we were waiting downstairs, we did all vote Ryder the best dressed today. So, thank you, Ryder. Honorable mention from the 5th grade, Delaney Kintz. Third place from the 5th grade, Macy Cleve. Second place from the 5th grade, Tresson Starman. Perfect. And our winner, first place winner from Mountain View, 5th grade, Holly Rolfe. Alrighty, that's our first half, so if parents want to make the switch-o, change-o, we'll get our second group up here and get through. Yep. If you go to the conference room, there are some snacks. Thank you. I'm trying to go fast. I know that. I think 10 minutes to prom. They kind of act like they don't know what to do. So we'll have Ken maybe help them. Just keep on moving. Which one? And she didn't come.
Does anybody know a good joke about trees? Well, I'll let the remaining parents here know and the town folk that we do have all of the posters from the children's entries at the Art and Heritage Museum right downtown, and they'll be on display through the end of the month. And Caitlin, our Heritage Director, she did an amazing job of displaying the artwork, so I think there's close to 500 posters on display, all with our theme, which we failed to mention, which is trees are beautiful all year, or trees bring beauty all year.
Okay, we're blaming this on Ryan's mom because she just got home from work. This is Ryan Becker. He was an honorable mention in the poetry contest, so we're doing a little impromptu. We didn't want to leave you out. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I do know his mom, so I'm not really giving her a hard time. That sounded bad.
Lots of seats, yeah.
That's VIP.
All right, so I'm going to repeat what I just said so that everyone in this room can know what we're doing as well. So my name is Allison O'Connor. I'm the chair of the Windsor Tree Board. Thank you for coming tonight. We are here to honor and celebrate the students that submitted both poetry and artwork for the annual Arbor Day contest. And we are celebrating the poster contest winners at this half. And I would like to remind everyone that all of the posters that were submitted are on display at the Art and Heritage Museum downtown through the end of the month. So if you can get over there, it's a great display, a great exhibit, and really celebrates our students' artwork and the celebration of trees in our community. So what we'll do is we will announce the student's name. They will come through, they will meet our mayor, shake hands with the mayor. Parents, you are welcome to come into the center and grab a photograph of your child to post on social media. Hashtag we love trees. And then after we're finished, we will go downstairs and we will continue celebrating with your kids. And there's some juice and cookies downstairs. So that is what we'll do. Thank you for coming. A big shout out to the teachers who support this contest. We do appreciate all of the hard work you put into it and couldn't do it without you. So thank you. And Wendy will be announcing the names.
Alrighty, we're going to move on to Skyview Elementary School. Honorable mention from the third grade, Tina Villalpando. Thank you. Honorable mention from the third grade, Tegan Brown. Alrighty. Third place winner from the 5th grade at Skyview is Violet McGrew. So you've got a parent behind you.
That's okay. You got it right side up. Very good. Thank you so much.
Already second place from the 3rd grade, Kirsten Gustafson. Mom, did you guys get one? Okay. Alrighty, and our first place winner from Skyview Elementary from kindergarten, representing those kindergartners, Marin Yeager. Yay. Thank you, Marin. Tozer Elementary, honorable mention from kindergarten, Leighton Prash. Honorable mention from kindergarten, Emma Troxel. She's not here, but you can still give her a round of applause. Okay. 1st grade, honorable mention, Drew Larson. And Mom has the right color on. She matches us. Good job, Mom. Alrighty, first grader Addie McCombs is 3rd place. 2nd grade, 2nd place, Day Day LaFave. Alrighty. And our first place winner from Tozer in the 1st grade, Colton Alexander. Alrighty, good job, Colton. Our last school represented today is Windsor Charter Academy. Honorable mention, 4th grade, Titus Knutson. Alrighty, thanks, Titus. From the 1st grade, honorable mention, Elise Moomey. I don't think she was able to be here. Honorable mention from kindergarten, Callaway Kershaw. And the Windsor Charter Academy's winners got to help us plant the tree at their school, so that was pretty fun on Friday. Honorable mention from the 2nd grade, Brinley Giarusso. place from the Charter Academy, the 4th grade, Sophia Marini. I don't think she's here. Second place from the Charter Academy, 5th grader, Anna Collins. Alrighty, and our first place winner from the 3rd grade at Charter, and our overall winner for the whole shebang, which is pretty cool, Adeline Schwartz. So you got parents behind you. Adeline's going to feel like a celebrity. These are the paparazzi, Adeline. Yeah, she should. Right. So the poster winners will also be represented in the calendar we do every year. So the 2019 calendar will feature the artwork from our winners. So something to look forward to next year, and we'll make sure everybody gets a calendar. So pretty fun. Thank you guys all for coming, and thank all the students. And there's cookies and snacks, because they do need more sugar tonight. So downstairs in the conference room. Thanks for hosting us.
Wonderful job, wonderful job. Thank you.
Okay. So, now that we started out with some fun and exciting things from the kids of our community, we will move on to item 4 of our agenda this evening, which is our board liaison reports. Mayor Pro Tem Baker, Parks, Recreation, and Culture Advisory Board.
Thank you. I have no update. There's not been a meeting since my last update.
Town Board Member Showerman, Water and Sewer Board, Clearview Library Board.
The Water and Sewer Board met on the 11th and reviewed a water purchase agreement with the Fort Collins Loveland Water District for emergency water supply to connect up near County Road 13 in New Liberty, and also discussed the developments on the water rate study. The Library Board met on 4/19, and they've got a lot going on, reviewed bylaws, approved their annual report, and discussed their Foundation and Friends of the Library activities. Tickets are on sale for their first author talk of the year. They've got a chili cook-off happening on April 5th, and then on Tuesday, the 22nd of May at 6:30, they will be hosting Books and Brews at High Hops. And then on the more business side of things, they've received pre-approval for a USDA loan, and now they're working on completing their full application to get formal approval for that loan. And so they will be holding a public meeting sometime in early May for that, as the application's due by the end of May. And that loan would allow them to lock in a rate for construction that wouldn't be contingent on a ballot measure.
Okay. Town Board Member Bennett, Planning Commission and Windsor Housing Authority.
Planning Commission met last Wednesday evening. They reviewed the site plan that's on our agenda tonight for the Martin Homes at Windsor Commons. They also conducted 2 public hearings. One is on the Thornton Farm 24 annexation that's on tonight's agenda. They also did a public hearing on land use map update. Housing met last week. There's a lot going on with our Windsor Housing Authority. I'll start with the easiest things first. I believe it was just yesterday, 30 volunteers from Timoth Church helped them not plant, but position flagstone and implement drip line on some landscaping that they're doing. So that's kind of a nice community effort with 30 volunteers from one of our area churches. Second thing is they had their annual financial audit. Very glad to report that their policies, their procedures, their accounting systems are very good. And it was not that way 9 years ago. There's been a lot of work done to bring it up to where it is. And that's thanks to a lot of volunteers, their staff person, and a lot of help from the Loveland Housing Authority. Little color commentary about their budget right now. It was pointed out that thanks to the solar panels that are on Windsor Meadows, their income on their operational side for their utilities is actually up. So that's a very smart, proactive move on their part. Third thing, they are looking at purchasing what's called Governor's Farm. It is on 6th Street. It is 48 units that are privately owned right now for affordable senior housing. This is going to be touch and go. Financially, it does not make a lot of sense. The reason to do it, though, would be to maintain 48 units in inventory for the community for affordable senior housing. The owner had a asking price. The owner has come down a little bit in that price. The Housing Authority, in looking at their numbers, and they're a nonprofit, so they just can't go out and raise rents and those kind of things. They have to get permission from the United States Department of Rural Development and their lenders. So they've got a major challenge here. They voted to make an offer, which will be less than the asking price. It's got a number of contingencies, and I'll just go a couple of the big ones. One contingency is that the capital needs assessment on the property does not exceed a certain financial number. The units are in pretty good shape, but once you get into it and start looking at all the detail, again, your lenders have pretty strict requirements on standards. So that's one of the contingencies. The other contingency is they will need to get permission to raise the rents. And there's some other contingencies too. If all these things fall in place, it would break even with a slight profit. So that's going to be a big challenge for them, and that is in progress. Fourth thing is Windsor. It's called Windsor Meadows, just north of Windshire, just north of Windsor Meadows, Windshire Park, 8.5 acres. They have taken out a contract to purchase that with the intent of building now 123 additional units for affordable senior housing. Some of those would be one-story, most would be one-story, some would be two-story. Next steps are a neighborhood meeting. They have an architectural design that looks very nice and fits, I think, the neighborhood and has a lot of green space around it. So I think the neighbors are going to be very happy with this because they had some concerns before about the townhomes going in there. I think they're going to be much happier with this. Another step they need to do is to be removed from the Metro District. And I understand they had a meeting yesterday that I think that might already have been done or in progress to make their numbers work. They're working with our planning department and scheduled to close in August. So at this point, all systems seems to be a go on that project. That will add 140 to 145 residents of affordable seniors. So the fifth thing is something I want to share with the board. I've mentioned this before, and I want to go a little bit more detail on this. And I want to make clear to my colleagues that the Windsor Housing Authority has not approached this, nor have they asked for help on this. But having sat with them for 2 years and seeing firsthand what they have to go through in terms of the rules and regulations, the procedures they have to follow with their funding sources, I see some real challenges with management. Right now they have 116 units at 2 locations. They have 1 full-time staff person who is listed as a manager, She does a great job. She's also the secretary, and there's a whole list of things that she has to do. They're just amazing what she gets done for just one person. They have a half-time maintenance person. Century 3 facility is over 60 years old, and like any facility that's that old, there are issues. There's also issues with Windsor Meadows, even though they're fairly new. There's always something that has to be maintained. So that's a real challenge. They've gotten by with volunteer help. One of the key volunteers is retired and spends pretty much, I think he's pretty much there just about every day. Okay, so they're getting by right now. If we add 171 units here in the next few months or year, that's more than double what they have. And I'm concerned about how they're going to maintain with the management issues. The volunteer that's putting a lot of time will not be there after this year. The other members on the board are all very dedicated. They all have full-time jobs. So they're losing a significant piece there. This winter, when the maintenance person was out for some good reasons, of course, things started backing up as it is. Now, if we double the number, the maintenance issues are going to increase. 287 units is what we're looking at for a nonprofit that's regulated by federal rules and regs. And again, I said they're a nonprofit. They can't just go out and raise their rents the way they want. So I just want to alert everybody that it is not a crisis by any means, but it doesn't take a crystal ball to see that as we increase to this number of affordable housing units for seniors, I believe there's going to be some challenges on how to manage and maintain that. So kind of a long report, but I think it's very important that we know what's coming down the road.
Okay. Thank you for filling us in tonight, Ken. Town Board Member Rennemeyer, Historic Preservation Commission, Great Western Trail Authority, Chamber of Commerce.
There is no update tonight on the Great Western Trail Authority, as there hasn't been a meeting since our last board meeting. The Historic Preservation Commission 2 weeks ago actually did a tour of the Boardwalk Museum, and the Historic Preservation Commission board would actually like to start providing tours of the museum on Thursday night, whatever we call our Thursday night concert in the park. We're going to have the all-town barbecue, everything on the first night. That's going to be the first one that they do. It was, believe it or not, I feel bad admitting this, but that was my very first time actually seeing the museum at Boardwalk Park in the 11 years that I've just never seems like it's open when I went down at the park. So that was very interesting. The Chamber of Commerce hasn't met since our last meeting, except for that last week there was 12 businesses at 12 noon held at the summit. And if nobody's been there, or hey, you haven't been there, their food is phenomenal. But on top of that, there was 12 businesses that actually came and exchanged cards, kind of as a networking opportunity. Another one, the Chamber of Commerce has many different networking opportunities that they do, but this one specifically just during the noon hour for 12 invited businesses. So if you're a business and you're a part of the Chamber of Commerce, reach out to them and they'd be glad to add you to the next 12 to 12 is what they call it. So that's about the end of my update.
Okay. Town Board Member Adams, Tree Board, Poudre River Trail Corridor Board.
Thank you. Well, you just saw part of what happened with this tree board, but I happen to serve as a liaison on the tree board, and I've worked with them for 6 years. They do a wonderful, beautiful job, and they work hard. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about what they did this week, because they worked their tails off. So anyway, you saw what happened with the poster contest, but on Arbor Day, April 20th, there were events at the Grandview Elementary and Windsor Charter Academy Middle School, and all of them went, both of them went very well. The mayor did an excellent job in her poetry and giving the proclamation, and so, as she always does, but as did the members of the tree board. And then the tree planting at Main Street Park at 8 o'clock Saturday morning, if anybody was up at that time. Snow, rain, cold. And they were out there planting 20 trees in Main Street Park. And so anyway, that was a nice event. And then the tree sale from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock on Saturday went very well. All the trees that they had reserved for people who had called in were picked up, and so we're going to have a lot of new trees. And part of the ceremony that the girls didn't mention is that when they have this presentation, every child in those schools gets a tree that he or she can take home and plant. We hope they are planted, not become swords on the way home. But I think they plant them. We see a lot of them around town that now are about my height, 6 feet high, from the last few years. So it's fun to watch that. Okay, that's enough about tree board. But the Poudre River Trail Board meets on Thursday, May 3rd, at the conference center out on 83rd Street. And so they'll be meeting they always meet the first Thursday of the month. That's it.
That's it, okay. I have Downtown Development Authority and North Front Range MPO. North Front Range MPO, I don't have anything new to report since our last meeting. We are meeting again on May the 3rd. Downtown Development Authority did meet on April 18th. A couple of the highlights there is the wayfinding RFP was finalized and published. We had additional discussions regarding parking options and continue to do outreach with our downtown businesses through the website, newsletter, and social media changes. They also met, our director did meet with town staff, had a meeting to discuss the crosswalk options and process, as they want to see what we can all do to work together to alleviate concerns and safety issues on 5th and Main and 4th and Main Street. So I'm sure we'll be having additional conversations with the town in the future on what we can do to help remedy those problems. And that concludes my report. Moving on to item 5. Item 5 is the public invited to be heard. This is for individuals that are wishing to participate in a non-agenda item. Is there anybody here this evening that wished to speak to the board on a non-agenda item? If so, this would be your time to step forward. Okay. Seeing none, we will move on with the regularly scheduled agenda. Moving on to item B, we have the consent calendar. Consent calendar this evening consists of 5 items, and I would seek a motion for approval of the consent calendar.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
A motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer and a second from Mr. Adams approving the consent calendar as presented. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the consent calendar is approved unanimously. Moving on to item C this evening for board action. Our first item this evening is ordinance number 2018-1558, an ordinance annexing and zoning certain territory known as the Weld County Road 76 annexation to the town of Windsor. John Turner, Hillside Development Group, the applicant. Kristen Turner, TV Group, the applicant's representative. This is second reading. It will require a supermajority vote and legislative action. Presentation by Mr. Ballstad.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Town Board. I'm filling in for Paul Hornbeck tonight. So this is the second reading of the Weld County Road 76 annexation. This is in conjunction with the Rocky Mountain Sports Park project that was submitted earlier. They had originally proposed an access off of County Road 76, but have since indicated that they plan to scale back to a phase 1 approach that may not include the access to County Road 76 immediately, but ultimately the full build out of the master plan will require this road to be in town. So this annexation is taking in the Weld County Road right-of-way, and it's not taking in any private property at this time. When the when the road is improved in the future, we will likely need to acquire additional right-of-way for those improvements. This is the annexation plat. It consists of approximately 6.5 acres, and all of the notification requirements of the municipal code and statutory requirements, sending certified packets to the applicable taxing districts has been met. The Planning Commission forwarded to Town Board a recommendation of approval of the annexation, along with general commercial and residential mixed-use zoning, and Town Board approved on first reading of the ordinance on April 9th of this year. Staff requests that the following be entered into the record: the application and supplemental materials, staff memo and supporting documents, and the recommendation. If you have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Balstead? Okay. If there are no questions for Mr. Balstead, this is the second reading, so this would be open. This particular item is open for public comment before we take a vote. Is there anybody this evening who wishes to come before the board to make comment? Go ahead and step forward, please. State your name and address for the record, and then she'll start the timer for your 3-minute time.
Yeah, Mike Mitchell, 6771 Stevens Street in Windsor. And I just had a question on the annexation, and that's for the substation for the utility. And it said it's going to be north of the wetlands marsh area. Is that north of, is that the wetlands marsh that's pointed to there?
Mr. Balstead, do you want to step forward to?
Or how far north of 76?
Even though we're not on that particular agenda item.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're on the County Road 76. Do you want to wait?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And bring that up? Okay. Okay. We will disregard that. Is there anybody who wish to bring forward anything to the board on the Weld County Road 76 annexation? Okay. Seeing none, then I would seek a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 2018-1558.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer and a second from Ms. Sharman approving ordinance number 2018-1558. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the ordinance passes unanimously. Moving on to item 2, a site plan presentation. Windsor Commons subdivision, third filing, Martin Homes, Andrew Martin, Martin Homes LLC, the owner applicant. And this evening we will have staff presentation from Ms. Berry.
Yes, thank you. Is this working okay? Yes, this is a site plan presentation for Martin Homes and Windsor Commons. It is a qualified commercial site plan. It's reviewed in accordance with Article 9 of Chapter 17 of the Municipal Code. The site is located at the corner of Automation Drive and Logistics Drive in Windsor Commons. The site is zoned limited industrial and as well as the properties around it. This is a combined site plan and landscape plan. The site is about 1 acre in size. The building itself is 6,000 square feet, a little over 6,000 square feet. There are 10 parking stalls proposed. About 35% of the site is landscaped, and there is an outdoor area that will be fenced. This is the building. This is the west elevation, taking advantage of the views. It is a mix of materials, a lap siding, stucco, stone and brick veneer, and asphalt shingles and metal roofing. The building is about 23.5 feet tall at its highest points. This is the west building, or the west facade, and then you can see there's a varied roof line on the north and south facades. South facade would be the Logistics Drive, and then these two are the other two facades. So this is for your information, and if I did want to repeat that it was at the April 18th Planning Commission meeting. We didn't get any comments from Planning Commission, but if you had anything that you wanted to pass on to the applicant or staff, please let us know.
Okay. Is the applicant here this evening?
Yes, he is.
Did the applicant wish to add anything further? Okay, are there any questions for the board? Mr. Baker?
I have a question about the parking. Is this mostly for staff or the employees? How does that work with only 10 parking spots?
If the applicant would please step forward to answer the question. State your name and address for the record.
Yeah. Andrew Martin, 27128 Coyote Ridge Lane, Johnstown, Colorado. I didn't hear your question.
The parking, is that for your staff and employees, or is that for customers?
And then also for customers as well.
Okay.
Clients that we're meeting with, designing plans.
So there won't be a bunch of clients at one time?
No.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Okay, this is your only opportunity to make comment on this at this time. Okay, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 3, a public hearing. An ordinance annexing and zoning certain territory known as the Thornton Farm 24 annexation to the town of Windsor, Colorado. City of Thornton owner Kevin Woods, City of Thornton city manager, and Mark Colber, City of Thornton water project director, is the applicant's representatives. This is legislative action. Ms. Berry will give us some presentation, but first I would seek a motion to open public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move to open public hearing.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Redemeyer and a second from Ms. Sharman to open public hearing. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And public hearing is now opened. Ms. Berry.
Thank you. This is annexation request. The City of Thornton has petitioned the town of Windsor to annex approximately 288 acres of property into the town and zone it residential mixed use. The property is located in the northeast of the intersection of Weld County Road 13 and Weld County Road 76. It is the city is annexing the property in accordance with an intergovernmental agreement that the town and the city have established earlier this year in January. The annexation would allow or would ensure that if anything does develop on the property, it would be done so according to town standards, as this property is within the growth management area for the town. I wanted to say that no development is currently proposed with this annexation. The plans are to retain the property as is as a farm. There is some discussion of Xcel Energy wanting to propose a substation at the site, but right now those are just early discussions and nothing's been submitted for review by the town. And if that comes to fruition and gets submitted, or if any other development proposal gets submitted for the town, it'll come to you again at that time. This is particularly for the annexation based on whether or not they meet Colorado state statutes to annex to the town. So the nearby zoning, the residential mixed use, which is indicated with the RMU up here on the map, is on the same zoning as the adjacent town properties. There are county and Timnath and Severance and both Weld County and Larimer County properties around this particular site, and they are a mix of agriculture and low-density residential uses. So the comprehensive growth plan, or the comprehensive plan growth strategy has this as a secondary growth area. The comp plan calls out that these areas are intended to be primarily residential land uses, and where possible, a mix of land use, housing types, and densities should be encouraged. So that goes along with the residential mixed-use zoning proposal. The land use plan itself does have the property agriculture. It allows the current use to continue as is, and it also allows for the residential use in the future, if it got to that point, or I should say it supports the zoning request for the residential use. So this is the annexation plat that was submitted along with the petition. The plat, through the plat, it also has dedications for both Weld County Road 76 to the town of Windsor for right-of-way. It also includes a dedication for County Road 13 to the town of Timnath for right-of-way expansion. An annexation report and was prepared for this due to the size. It's over 10 acres, and that annexation impact report discusses utilities and services to the property, Those reports were provided to the individual tax agencies that would be impacted by this annexation. And similar information from the submittal packet was also sent out to referral agencies, our typical ones like CDOT or Colorado Department of Transportation. We've gotten back no comments or no conflicts from those agencies, and both taxing and the typical referral agencies. And they did, a few of them did state that they wanted to see if anything does propose. Of course, they want to review, particularly the school district. If something did come on the property, they'd want to, at that time, review the proposal. But again, nothing is proposed at this time. So staff has determined that the requirements of the applicable parts of the Colorado Revised Statutes have been met. The plat is consistent with the annexation petition. The property is eligible for annexation based on contiguity and community interest between the property owner and the town. There are no limitations for annexation existing in this particular situation, and an election is not required. The town board has adopted a resolution in March of this year declaring that these certain findings of fact were met and that public hearing dates were set for April 18th for Planning Commission and the 23rd for the board. And here's the notification information. This notification information includes the neighborhood meeting that was required for this. The neighborhood meeting was held in March of this year. Concerns conveyed at the meeting include increase in general traffic to the area and some questions about the substation on the property. And those are included in your staff packet. So the recommendation was from the Planning Commission to forward a recommendation of approval for both the annexation and also the residential mixed-use zoning designation. And after this, staff requests the following be entered into record. The application, the petition, submittal materials, the staff memorandum, supporting documents, all testimony presented during the public hearing, and this recommendation.
So the Planning Commission didn't have any additional contingencies? They approved it as...
Just make sure all requirements from planning staff are met. Just basic thing, to make sure the plat meets everything. At this point in time, there are no outstanding items with the applicant or the plat.
Okay, is the applicant's representative present?
Yes, he
this
is.
evening? Would you like to, did you have anything further you wanted to add to this testimony?
No, Mayor.
Okay. Are there any questions from
I
the
have
board?
two questions. Does the RMU zoning, would that be acceptable for the Excel?
Substation?
Yeah, substation.
If one was
If
submitted.
it was proposed, yeah.
I wouldn't want to get in
No,
front of
I know.
ourselves.
If it's-
It would allow for a utility to be on the property.
Okay, and can you talk about County Road 13 in Timnath? I missed that. Is that their road?
I believe it's through an intergovernmental agreement that they take care of the road, or is that just?
They've already annexed County Road 13 further to the south.
Okay.
The
so-
entirety of it, not just the center?
So it's kind of hard to see on this, but it is already within Timnath, and through this plat, it's dedicating additional right-of-way to allow for expansion of the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any additional questions? Mr. Adams?
Ms. Berry, I'm just curious, where did the name come from?
It's
And
their
why
24th
is it called
farm.
Thornton Farm?
It's their 24th farm.
Because that's one of the farms that Thornton bought? I'm just curious.
I can actually ask the applicant. I was just assumed it was they have 24 farms. But I will ask the applicant if he can address that.
And I'm just, because the reason I'm wondering, as he walks up here, is all of the farms that Thornton has bought, are we going to have annexations on several of those others farms?
I'm not aware of any
Would
other.
you please, I'm sorry, state your name and address for the
Sure, I'm
record.
sorry. My name's Mark Culliber. Address is 12450 Washington Street in Thornton, Colorado.
Okay.
I don't believe there are any other farms in the Windsor growth area that are proposed to be annexed at this time. We've annexed 3 other farms to the town of Timnath, and each one of those had like Farm 111, Farm 60. So they all have the farm number attached to them.
Well, I was asked this question in my neighborhood, and I just
Uh-huh.
thought, I don't have the answer. So I've gone to a couple of your Thornton meetings in the community, and so actually it's basically just where it is and is part of the Thornton process, right? Is that a correct assumption?
If I remember my history correct, that was probably the 24th contract that was signed as we acquired the farms in Weldon and Larimer counties.
As I recall, this was farmland bought in 1980?
1985, yes.
Well, in the 80s, I should have said. Okay. I was just curious, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to answer the questions.
Sure.
Anything further, Mr. Adams?
No, that's it.
Mr.
Thank you.
Wedemeyer?
I just wanted to know, upon an approval of annexing, are there any improvements that are going to need to be made to this parcel upon, land improvements that would need to be made because it's annexed?
Besides the right-of-way dedication, at this time, no, there is no proposal, no change at this time. When a development proposal comes in, then that's when that'll be addressed.
Okay.
Any further questions before I open it up to the public? Okay, seeing no further questions from my board. Mr. Mitchell, now would you like to come forward? I believe this is your subject matter.
Mike Mitchell, 6771 Stephen, Windsor, Colorado. North of 76, there's something about the public service substation, and their routing. They said right behind the wetlands on this annexation where they're going to put a little substation, which is fine. We need to upgrade the electricity. But I'm trying to nail down a map, and I got one just precisely. Where is it on your map? Do you know?
We do not currently have a submission for a substation yet. If one comes in, we can show where the proposed site is. I would assume, but looking at the map, I think the white area is in this area. So if they said behind.
Yeah, it's going to be somewhere in this area and then west of northwest estates or something like that. So.
Is this the
Just a point
estates?
of curiosity. The map I saw showed
I think
bringing the electricity down and then right in on top of Roth subdivision as opposed to coming from Timnath all the way to Windsor and then back up 15 all the way back up. So.
Yeah, so at this time, we haven't had that level of detail. We've only heard the discussion that one might be proposed on the site, and once one comes in, we can advertise that and make sure that everybody knows where it's going to be and have a public hearing as well, and a neighborhood meeting. So.
That's fine. I just came down for curiosity, nothing on TV, so thanks for your time.
Sure, no problem. We'll keep you updated. You could also leave your information with me if you like, and I can contact you. Okay.
Is there anybody else who wished to speak to the board on this agenda item? Please come forward now.
Rosalind Leoto, 36933 County Road 15, Windsor, Colorado. And good evening, Mayor and Board. And I think I can clarify a little bit what Mike was talking about, and I have some concerns concerning your annexation of the property. I went through your packet that you should all have tonight, and one thing it mentions is maintaining the community, the character of the community. And also when I go through your packet on the annexation petition, it mentions your intergovernmental agreement with Thornton and talking about bringing in the Excel substation. And I'm wondering how that maintains the community in the area when you have a subdivision right next to it and you have acreages. And I would like to hear some answers on that because you have signed this intergovernmental agreement which allows for a transfer of property between Thornton to Excel for a substation. I also concerned that this has proceeded this far by Excel without public comment on this site. There's on the Excel websites, there are a lot of sites that have been discussed in 2014. And in 2016, there are 3 areas, one by Timnath Reservoir, and one over on County Road 13 and County Road 76. The site in particular that this annexation would be allowing for is not in the Excel documentation anywhere to be found. There has not been any public comment for it, and I think it's also risky for Thornton to transfer any property to Excel, which is part of your IGA agreement, because there's been no public comment for that particular site. And I never thought I would do this at a meeting, but just to clarify, the property has been staked. It says the northeast corner of the Avery substation. So, Mike, it has been staked. Melissa verified that one time. I asked her what the orange flags were for, and it has been staked. And so I wonder how it's gotten this far without public comment. And also, the other thing in your packet, you describe an area, it says that the area is an urban area. And I don't understand how you can call this area an urban area when it's a farm field and it has a dilapidated farmhouse that Thornton owns on it. So if you could answer that, how you call this urban. Thank you.
I mean, I'll render, I believe that there's been no public comment because we haven't seen a petition to date related to a substation, nor seen any site plans. Is that correct, Mr. McCarver?
As I understand from Ms. Berry's presentation, there has been no application for land use approval on the property. The IGA recites that it's anticipated that Xcel Energy would have interest in this site, but we have not seen a land use application. The idea was that if we bring this property in, whatever development takes place on it would be regulated under Windsor's land use code instead of the county's land use practices. So that is the primary reason why this annexation is taking place. The comment about, or the question about this area being urban, what the statute says is that the area is either urbanized or is expected to be urbanized. And that's an allegation that is made in every annexation petition. It's a statutory allegation. And so although I would agree that at present the property does not have an urban appearance, the allegation has been that it may become urbanized, and that means something other than agriculture, and certainly that's what Xcel Energy has in mind for the property. The remainder of the property outside of the Xcel Energy bubble, if you will, there's considerable acreage left, and I assume that might be some other form of development. But as Ms. Berry said right now, there has been no application for development on
And Windsor actually petitioned and made this request for the annexation so that we would have greater control,
right?
And be able to utilize Windsor's planning policies and best management practices.
There was a fairly lengthy discussion of this annexation about a year ago, or perhaps even longer, when Mr. Arnold brought this to your attention, and there was considerable conversation about, well, how do we go about making certain that the town of Windsor's land use code and land use practices apply to this property? So that's when we started our conversation with the city of Thornton about the annexation.
Okay, thank you. I believe that answered your questions. Is there anybody else who wished to speak before the board on this agenda item? Now would be your time to come forward. Okay, seeing no one further, any further questions from the board before we close public hearing? Then I would seek a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Bennett and a second from Mr. Rennemeyer to close public hearing. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. Public hearing is now closed. Moving on to item 4, resolution number 2018-42. A resolution making certain findings and conclusions of law pursuant to section 31-12-110 Colorado Revised Statute concerning the Thornton Farm 24 annexation to the town of Windsor, City of Thornton owner Kevin Woods, City of Thornton city manager, and Mark Kobler, City of Thornton Water Project Director, the applicant's representative. Legislative action, Miss Berry, did you have anything further?
I do not.
Okay. Any further questions from the board? Mr. McCarter, we have everything for the record at this point in time?
I believe so, Madam Mayor.
Okay. And then I would seek a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2018-42.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer and a second from Ms. Showerman, approving resolution 2018-42. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the resolution passes unanimously. Moving on to item 5, ordinance number 2018-1559, an ordinance annexing and zoning certain property known as the Thornton Farm 24 annexation to the town of Windsor, City of Thornton owner Kevin Woods, City of Thornton city manager, and Mark Kobler, City of Thornton Water Project Director, the applicant's representative. This is first reading and legislative action. Again, Ms. Berry, anything further?
No.
Okay. Anything further from my fellow board members?
Madam Mayor, I would move to approve ordinance number 2018-1559 as presented.
Second?
Motion on the floor from Ms. Showerman and a second from Mr. Bennett, approving ordinance number 2018-1559. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the ordinance passes unanimously. Moving on to resolution number 2018-43, approving an agreement for economic inducements and development incentives for Owens, Illinois. Legislative action, and Ms. Johnson will provide presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Town Board members. Tonight before you, we have a request for an incentive from Owens, Illinois. The property is still at the same location out in Great Western Industrial Park on the eastern edge. The total project cost that they're investing is an equipment upgrade to their facility to prepare for a larger equipment upgrade by 2020 in the amount of about $30 million at that time. So this investment and expansion is what we call a manufacturing equipment expansion. We usually look at 3 different things, where it's human capital, physical expansion, or manufacturing equipment. This one is a $3.7 million investment in the current facility to keep everything relevant and keep this plant running smoothly. The request was made in 2018 for a 50% personal property tax rebate. They have been approved by Weld County for a matching 50% personal property tax rebate as well, contingent on the fact that the town of Windsor comes in and does the same thing. You see before you a 10-year depreciation schedule, which is based off of the investment that the company is making at this time. So the approximate value that Windsor would refund it over 10 years would be about $36,000. Weld County would rebate about $47,000. So for a total investment in this company of $83,000 over 10 years to help them offset the cost that they would acquire by new property taxes, putting this equipment in place. Again, the 10-year total is $72,000, so $36,000 to the town and $36,000 would be rebated back to the company. There is no effect on the economic incentive fund balance at this time. And staff recommends and requesting approval of Resolution 2018-43, an incentive agreement for 50% personal property tax rebate for Owens, Illinois. I do believe Brianna Brown might be here. She's in the back. She is from the company. If you have any questions for myself or her, we're here to answer them.
Okay. And just for clarification, the request is for just a little over $36,000 for a $3.7 million project, capital improvement.
Correct. We will actually gain $36,000 and they will get rebated back $36,000. So the total that they're investing would be $72,000, and over 10 years we will rebate that back. Once we receive a paid property tax receipt from Weld County showing they've paid it, then we reimburse that once a year. So that portion of it, whatever that is that's put into place in that 12-month period for this particular project, once they've shown that they've paid it, then we will reimburse 50% of that.
Okay. Any further questions for Ms. Johnson or the applicant? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2018-43.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Rennemeyer and a second from Ms. Sharman approving resolution number 2018-43. All in favor, vote yes. Opposed, no. And the resolution passes unanimously. Moving on to item 7, resolution number 2018-44, approving an agreement for economic inducements and development incentives, Da Vinci Signs, legislative action. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Town Board members. We received a request from Da Vinci Signs. We're really excited. I've been working with Mr. Shaw for several years, and so we're really glad to not only have them in Windsor and have them call Windsor home, but we're really excited that they've chosen to expand here in Windsor. So the incentive request that you see here for tonight is for relocation and expansion of their facility into Diamond Valley. You can see on the site map, and please excuse my crude pointing north sign there. I was having issues with the map that day. But so the location is to actually take 2 lots in Diamond Valley Industrial Park and to build a 22,000 square foot building to expand into, not only for their needs today, but to actually grow into with future staff as well. Again, the building, they're going from approximately 10,000 square foot building into a 22,500 square foot building. Their total expansion project cost, late in the day, is about $5.4 million, and that includes the land and the building and all of the equipment that would go into that. This is a true retention project, as they are looking at other facilities around northern Colorado. We would be retaining 33 employees that they currently have, and then they would be adding an additional 7 employees to this. The use for this particular location would be strictly manufacturing. So the request was made initially for typical, according to our primary employer standards and our guidelines, for development fee waivers. So we have 2 fee waivers that they've requested that we waive up front, which is the administrative fee and the Windsor use tax. That totals about $46,000. And then as our standard process that I like to do, we have a development fee reimbursement. So what it means is they build the building, they pay these fees, and then within 60 days of securing their certificate of occupancy, which means the building is up and open and running and able to produce taxes for the town in the form of real property tax. So worst case scenario, nothing ever happens, at least the building is open, we can fill it with somebody else, but it is generating taxes. We would then return or rebate the water fee, the sewer fee, and the drainage fee. And that is $40,000 in fees for that. So the total incentive request is $86,000, one in the form of waivers, one in the form of rebates 60 days again after certificate of occupancy. You can see the total bill for their development fees is over $224,000. So we've asked for certain ones of those to be waived and reimbursed, but they do have a total package fee package of $224,000. And this is really tiny, so I apologize when I see it up on the big screen. But we've done an economic impact analysis, and what that is for us, for those of you who aren't familiar, is we have an economic impact model, and that model is based off of our budget and what it costs the town to provide services to any entity. This one in particular is commercial, so it factors in the costs that we spend on every single department based on commercial, providing services to a commercial entity. And then it takes in the fact that the revenue that this project will bring in, not only in the construction revenue of the physical facility, but also for the revenue that their residents will, or the employees will spend in our community and other things. And when you look at it at the end of the day, there's a net positive, so taking what it costs us to provide services for what they'll bring in over 10 years of $343,000 to the town. So that, based off of that, the incentive package of over $80,000 would be about 1.8 years to pay back. So within that time frame, we would gather that much revenue back, and we would be at a break-even point. It would have an effect on the Economic Development Incentive Fund of $40,000. Again, that's the reimbursement of the enterprise funds, the water, sewer, and drainage fees 60 days after certificate of occupancy. The current fund balance right now is always $200,000. The only one we're anticipating right now that has not come forth is the Kana Hotel Group reimbursement that you approved last year for $54,000. And again, same concept, reimbursing after the CO. And we anticipate that to be sometime this fall. However, I do anticipate the refund for this particular project to not occur most likely until the first quarter of 2019, based on submittals of site plans and construction timelines. So Economic Development staff is requesting approval of Resolution 2018-44, an incentive agreement for fee waivers and reimbursements for expansion of Da Vinci signs. And I apologize, I have to give credit to Jill Young, too, in my office. She handles our business retention expansion. She's worked diligently with both of these companies, specifically with Da Vinci signs as well. John Shaw is an applicant, the representative here, if you'd like to speak with him, or we'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Did the applicant have anything further to add?
Just wanted to thank Stacy Johnson and Jill Young for working with us for a couple years. We're excited to stay in Windsor and to grow in Windsor. It's been a great location for us. We have access to quite a few areas, Greeley to go south to Longmont and Denver, so it's a good central location. We moved to Windsor in 2006, and it was a great move. We're excited to stay here and appreciate the town's cooperation and working with Stacy and Jill as well. So thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay. I just want to say, I think both of these resolutions that we've seen are signs of some local success. And I think they're good signs to see some of our local companies wanting to improve and grow. And we thank you for picking Windsor to do that in. And thank you for being part of our business family here. And it also helps to continue to diversify what we are able to offer in terms of employment and those kinds of opportunities. So,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Okay, if there are no further comments or questions, I would seek a motion.
Madam Mayor, I would move that we approve Resolution 2018 dash, and she turned the thing off, is it 44?
44.
Sorry, dash 44.
I was reading it from there, Stacy. Anyway, 2018-44.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Mr. Adams and a second from Mr. Rennemeyer approving Resolution 2018-44. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Moving on, you're welcome. Thank you. Moving on to item 8, resolution number 2018-45. A resolution approving the form of an amended and restated agreement for economic incentives and inducements by, between, and among the Town of Windsor, the Windsor Downtown Development Authority, and Old Windsor Mill LLC with respect to redevelopment of the Windsor Mill and elevator property. Legislative action, Mr. McCarter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What's before you tonight is an agreement, the terms of which, if accepted by the other parties, will help us jumpstart redevelopment of what I consider to be the most unlucky building in all of northern Colorado. The Mill Building, hit by a fire right after it was built, hit by a tornado, and then hit by another fire. But as a result of instructions I've received from you and conferring with the DDA's attorney, we've come up with the form of this agreement. I would love to ask you to approve it as a final document tonight, but it's not quite ready for that. So what I have been asked to do is present it to you and authorize me to make an offer to the other parties, and if accepted, we will bring it back to you in final form for ultimate approval. The terms of this agreement are identical to the terms of the prior agreement. It has the town and the DDA putting in approximately $2.3 million of cash up front. Under the old agreement, there was a complicated model for that. Under the new agreement, those dollars would flow as soon as a certificate of occupancy is issued for the building. Much simpler trigger for that. After that, both the DDA and the town of Windsor would rebate a share of tax revenue. For the DDA, it's property tax. That's the DDA's lifeblood. 50% of the tax revenue from this property would be returned to the property owner. On the town side, 50% of the sales tax revenue generated by business on the property. The total of those rebates, regardless of how the combination actually plays out between the town and the DDA, the total of those reimbursements is $1.36 million. So what we have here is a total combined package of $3.7 million. The town and the DDA will need to renegotiate some terms in an agreement they struck on how they would structure sharing the tax revenue reimbursements. I could go into the weeds on that, but the point is that if one or the other of those revenue streams gets to the finish line first, the other party will continue to pay in until the 1.36 million is paid, and then the town and the DDA will work it out later on whether what their relative percentages of that are. The idea here is that we will provide the owner with an incentive to get back to work on the property. The proposal, as I understand it, is a reduced scope. It's not as grand as the project that was underway last September. It's a smaller project, but it still pencils out in terms of economic impact to the town and to the DDA. For that reason, I am asking that you authorize me to present this to the other parties as an offer by approving this resolution tonight.
Okay, are there questions? Mr. Redemeyer?
Mr. McCarter, what I'm concerned about is are any of the terms still to be negotiated? I mean, I know you're calling this their offer, and I like that from what we've talked about in the past. But my concern is what still has to be finalized with it? Is it, I mean, obviously they would have to agree to it, but I know that in previous conversations you had alluded to there was some final details that needed to be hashed out, and that's what I guess, if I had a concern, that's what it would be.
Yeah, if you look at the draft that's in your materials, there's yellow highlighting. There are bracketed areas where we still need information. There is still stuff that we may need from the owner of the property as far as filling in some of the details, some of the recitals, the context for why we're doing this. And so without that feedback from the other party, particularly the property owner, we really can't present you a final agreement. I mean, I don't, it's just not complete yet. But once we get, I think there are just a few details we need to plug into the agreement. I think that they will see that it's essentially the same agreement. It's actually streamlined. It's a better agreement. And I would expect that they'll accept it, but until we get word back from them, it's not a final agreement. It's just an
So if
offer.
any of the material terms do change, it will come back before us?
Yes. It'll come back to you in some way.
Okay.
For further authority to me if I need to change the agreement. I don't expect to, but that's what would happen, Mr. Redemeyer.
Mr. McCarter,
Yes, sir.
you finished?
Yeah.
I'm just questioning and wondering, is all the work, well, I shouldn't say all the work, but the work being done now, is that just still cleanup from the fire and the damages done? I mean, I sat up there the other day in my car and watched some guys there, and is that just cleanup?
I'm not certain what's going on there, but I can tell you it doesn't involve construction because that's dependent on an agreement like this.
Well, that's what I assumed, but.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. McCarter? If not, I would seek a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2018-45.
Second.
Motion on the floor for Mr. Redemeyer, second for Mr. Bennett, approving Resolution 2018-45. All in favor vote yes, opposed no. And the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 9, the Economic Development Report. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Town Board members. First of all, I'd like to take a moment and say thank you to all of you. Truly appreciated your support. I've been here 7 years, April 1st, believe it or not. So very thankful to still be here and working here and bringing new and exciting projects to Windsor, but really appreciate your support and dedication to all of you on this town board. I'm going to do a quick report tonight talking about some of the economic development events that have been going on. We had the Upstate Annual Meeting on March 1st. We also had the NOCOM event on April 12th. That is the Northern Colorado Manufacturing Sector Partnership. I'm on their board of directors. We had the huge trade show out of the ranch. It was record attendance, record booths. So again, supporting manufacturing and those type of entities and the service suppliers to them out at the ranch on April 12th. Jill was again a big part of that help and that setting that up and working that as well. And then recently, just last week, we had the Region 2 blueprint plan. So we had, if you remember, the governor came out with a blueprint plan when he first started running and had set up regions around the state to go and talk to. So we have Region 2, which is Larimer-Weld County, and we hosted that in Windsor. And we had representatives from all over our region come in and talk and hear the new programs that the State Office of Economic Development and International Trade is putting together. So they've got some new programs, and then they wanted to hear feedback on some other programs coming up. So those are some events that have kind of been going on in our office and some things that we've been doing. I was fortunate enough to get to speak at the BizWest inaugural real estate summit on March 27th. That had 400 real estate folks in attendance, and I got to shout Windsor's name out there and talk about all the amazing things that are going on. So that was fun. And then the next day I went to Windsor Leadership Day, which is the second annual event for Windsor that the Chamber puts on, and I was able and fortunate enough to speak at that event about Windsor and economic development activity. Some of our general activity that Jill and I have been involved in is still touring buildings and doing different things. We have a vacant building. It's the former Schneider Electric building up on Royal Vista Circle, so behind the gas stations east of the American Inn Hotel up there. That is a building that was vacated. Schneider Electric consolidated back to Fort Collins, but we asked the representative, Jason Ellis, who's the broker for that site, to give us a tour so we can better understand the space. When we envision or get phone calls about companies wanting to locate there, we want to know what that space looks like. They have about 34,000 square feet, and they can break it down into 5 or 6 units. So they can have one user for that, or they can break it down into multiple units. So it's a nice office space that we have available in Larimer County. Up on that portion, we'll continue to submit it when appropriate, and I have let our regional economic development organizations know about that property as well. So if they get anything in, we'll be sure to get that property submitted and filled with some good paying jobs. We have excited to announce Jill has started up the business listening session. So thank you to Cindy and Paul for attending our first business listening session. Again, this is a no agenda business opportunity for a handful of local businesses to come and really get to meet the elected officials and talk to them about what they're seeing and their experiences in Windsor and doing business and ideas, anything that they have. So we have, that first one was March 29th. The second one is May 9th. And I believe Ken has graciously volunteered to be one of those, so we're looking for one other person to come. Jill will be sending out information on that, and we'll get you guys signed up, but we're going to try to do one every month, whatever you guys see fit and have time for. We just think it's a great opportunity. We thank you for your time for engaging in the business community. Right now, Jill is currently working on 6 expansion projects. So we had 2 that came for you tonight, and so we're still working on about 6 more. They're all in different stages and at different paces, but we're still working on some more projects. And then we're still ongoing with separate individual business visits to existing industry within the town. Does anybody have any questions about any activity? I know I had some concerns when I talked to you about the prospect tracking and Xceligent and the going down of that real estate service. We've signed up for Catalyst for the same amount, and I've got the emails coming in. So I am getting leads again from that source. So we do have some other opportunities to definitely keep submitting properties in Windsor.
Any questions, Mr. Renner?
That building that you were talking about for development up there, is that the old Centennial Bank building? Is that the building that's right up at that intersection on that corner?
No, that's the building that I'm talking about is actually next to the daycare. So it's back a block off behind the gas station. And I apologize. So it's Westgate, so it'll be the southeast corner.
Minor? Was that where
It was Minor, yeah, and then it became Schneider Electric, and then they consolidated to Fort Collins.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Any other questions for Ms. Johnson? No. Well, thank you for all you do.
Thank you guys so much.
And you and Jill both to keep our businesses happy and continuing to thrive in Windsor.
Thank you guys.
Okay. Item 10, our financial report for March 2018 with our current acting town manager, Mr. Moyer. Hopefully you can give us a presentation with as much good news as Ms. Johnson.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. The report before you tonight is for March 2018, which marks the end of our first quarter in 2018. So going by that, our benchmark for both revenue and expenditures would be at 25% of the budget. Starting with sales tax, it was slightly below our monthly collection mark, not by a lot, but it was still higher than last year, and year-to-date is also ahead of last year. Now, part of that, a reason we are ahead of last year and ahead of our projections year-to-date is because of that one-time return I told you about that we got in January of over $200,000 in that one payment. So if we keep going at this pace, I know that it's still early in the year, only one quarter down. Our sales tax looks to come in about $11.7 million compared to the 10.8 that we had budgeted. So we may again set another sales tax collection this year. Our construction use tax on building permits is lagging a bit from last year. We are at 22% of our budget for this year, which is not far from 25%, granted. But I'll need to keep an eye on that. If we're not going to make it, we may have to reevaluate whether we do some projects or not. But we'll monitor that as the year goes on. Property tax, I mentioned last time, we don't really start collecting property tax until this report. We did get a good shot in the arm for March, and the next big one will probably be in June. And then after June, we don't really collect too much anymore. Moving on to expenditures, the general fund looks good. We are at 23% of our operating budget. I expect in the next couple months that's going to get closer and maybe even surpass the monthly benchmark. Reason being, we're going to start gearing up for summer. We hire a lot of people for the summer between the pool, the parks, and all the other jobs we have in the summer. Overall, our operations are at 19%, which is fine. Capital expenditures are at 6%, mostly because we're just getting them started. We'll write more checks for that later in the year. We'll bring the monthly expenditures closer to the benchmark. So those two combined, we are at 14% of our total budget, and we have a few things to keep an eye on, but I think overall we're in a good spot. So before I take any questions, I had a question for you. On the report on page number 4, where we have the pie chart of the locations in town, what I thought might be helpful is we have another chart like that, but it shows the sales tax broken down by industry. For instance, groceries, telecom, general supplies, that type of thing. I was thinking to try and make room for that graph somehow in here if you're interested in seeing that.
Yes, I think that would be very good to have.
Okay.
So we'll
Good.
see that in our future reports?
Yes.
Any questions for Mr. Moyer? Okay.
All right,
Seeing
thank
none,
you.
We're going to be moving on then to item 11, but before we go there, I do want to make some public comment to my departing board members. So as a new and short-term member, I want to thank Cindy Sharman for her time and service to this board. She made sure she was brought up to speed on all the key and important projects and subjects, and used her own time to learn about the issues as she jumped into each and every meeting as if she had been here for years. She was and is a good participant and listener, and as someone who has been serving in the public well before this board, I have a feeling and hope it will not be the last time that we see of her. For she is a valuable and keen leader for our community, and one that this board and myself were fortunate to have served with. Thank you, Cindy. I will not say goodbye, as I look forward to seeing you in your role that you will serve in the future.
Thank you.
And well, what can I say about Ivan Adams? There were those times that Ivan and I did not always see eye to eye. But even in those moments, you knew what he was led by, his heart. Ivan has a huge heart for our kids and our schools and this community. And he demonstrated on countless occasions his love and passion by putting his presence where his heart is. He attended everything, and I mean everything. As a dedicated and devoted public servant, Ivan took his board role very seriously, and he read every single packet every single time, word for word. Although he may not know it, he has touched my heart more than he knows. He is now and will forevermore be a mentor, a confidant, a colleague, and friend. Thank you, Ivan, for your commitment and passion. I will miss you in the days ahead, but will know that this community has forever touched your heart, and in return too, you have touched your community. Thank you, my friend, and God bless you. And now we will move forward with the administration of oath to newly elected town board members. Ms. Mellenbacher.
Alrighty. Will you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you will support the United States Constitution, support the Colorado Constitution, support the laws of the state of Colorado, support the charter and ordinances of the town, and faithfully perform the duties of the office to which you have been elected? I do. Congratulations.
Okay, and as we return to our regularly scheduled meeting, we return to item D, which is communications. Communications from our town attorney.
Everything all right back there, Ivan?
That's a drum roll.
I don't have anything other than to echo your comments, Madam Mayor, of the two departing members, how much I appreciated working with them, and look forward to working with all of the others. It's great to see a full board sitting up here tonight. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay. Communications from town staff. Mr. Moyer, anything further?
Just to point out something, a thing in the communications part of your packet is a letter from our auditors. Me presenting you with this letter was part of the audit process that they needed to have done. So just for you to view, that's all we had to do with it, just pointing it out for you. Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, anything further? Okay. Ms. Holdling? Mr. Ballstead? Mr. Lucas? Chief?
Real quick.
Chief.
First, thank you. What I'd like to say is on the Saturday, we're having a national night, or national drug take back again. It may be one of our last. The DA is making it more and more difficult to accomplish this, and so we're working with them. So in the past, we would gather the prescriptions, and the DA would come and pick them up. Now they're requiring us on the same day that we collect them to deliver them to Denver within 2 hours of the collection period. So it's become a little more difficult, but we're going to continue to do it or find ways to assist the citizens of disposing of prescription drugs. So, but that is coming up on the 28th. So
From
thank you.
when to when and where?
It'll be Saturday, I think 9 to 2, the police department, and then we also have a collection spot set up out at the Good Sam.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for continuing to provide that important service to our community. Mr. Moyer, did you have any communications as the town manager?
No, nothing that I did not include in the report last Friday.
Okay. Communications from town board members. Mr. Baker.
Thank you. I would like to say something. Today is one of those bittersweet days. We welcome the new board, and we look forward, and we move on towards the future. At the same time, we say goodbye to our colleagues that we've served with, and it's been a true pleasure. I'd like to thank Cindy for diving right in, filling the vacancy. You did a great job. I really appreciate it. And Mr. Adams, we used to sit together in the audience before the 2012 election, and it was a pleasure to get to know you. We went to Washington, D.C., and of course, I wanted to go to Starbucks, and Mr. Adams gladly walked along. I don't know how far we walked that day, bad hip and all, but we had a lot of good. I don't even know what we talked about. Uphill, both ways.
Both ways.
Yeah. I don't know what we talked about, but I know I had a great time, and I'll never forget that experience with you. So thank you both for serving. You both did amazing jobs, and congratulations to the new board. I'm excited to look towards the future.
Anything further from any town board members? Okay. Seeing none, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor for Mr. Rennemeyer and a second for Mr. Baker to adjourn. All in favor vote yes. Opposed, no.
This is the first of
And we are officially adjourned this evening. Thank you.